What is going on, everybody? This is Patty XRP, and with me is
Mickey B. Fresh, and welcome to the DeFi Standard.
absolutely. So Mickey, yeah, what do you want to start us off with for today? I know you had some thoughts you want to get into sharing.
Sure, yeah. So as everyone filters in, today is the last day for the claim. So make sure if you haven't claimed or you have friends or family who haven't claimed, let them know today is the last day to do that. If you held on an exchange on December 12th, 2020, during the time of the snapshot of XRP, you do not have to do anything unless you're Binance US. Every other exchange, you cannot go on, you're not going to be able to go on to XRP Scan to see your claim if it was through an exchange. So, because you don't have an actual XRP account, what the exchange does, and you'll use theirs as a hosted wallet. So, if you had it in a self-custody wallet, though, you do. So you are able to go look it up on XRP Scan and see your Flare claim. So I think that's important to note. I think this is one of those, dominoes that we were waiting to fall. So now that we move past the Spark claim tomorrow, then we start looking on to the launch date. So once this is over, any unclaimed Spark will go to the general rewards pool. And that general rewards pool starts out with 12 billion Spark, which is the 7 billion that didn't go to Ripple and the scam accounts and all those things. And then 5 billion was donated from the foundation out of their 30 billion. So that's 12 billion. Now, the all unclaimed Spark will go to, it won't be burnt. It will go to this general rewards pool. And the general rewards pool is used initially to pay out rewards to those who mint F assets. And the F asset minting will not begin at launch. It will be 6 to 8 weeks out after launch, and it will be initiated based on a governance vote to launch that, which will be like a Spark dependent application, which is a special application built on Flare. So that's just kind of like just a overall reminder of getting everyone up to date on what's going on. And we could go from there, Patty. There's a couple other things I want to talk to about Flare specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add in on that note. So, like you're saying, 12 billion's already been allocated to the general F asset rewards pool, and Flare in one of their blogs from January said that they expect that the minimum amount in that pool for at launch will end up being around 20 billion. So we'll have to see. That's a lot of unclaimed Spark. So we'll see how that goes and if that kind of prediction from them, holds up. But we should know here in another day or two.
Exactly. Yeah. So I left that part. So according to Hugo, and I think the Flare statistics a few months ago, there was like 15 billion or so unclaimed Spark at that time. That was a few months ago. That would have left it around 25 to 30 billion in that rewards pool then. Now, that's why I think they were saying 20 billion was conservative. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I guess we could find out for tomorrow's live stream, Patty, or recorded video. We'll try and get those so we could cover how much Spark wasn't claimed and which goes into those rewards pools. I think that's, important. It's, I don't think it's a good or bad thing. If they don't claim, it's going to go to the people who did claim or who do mint F assets then.
Yeah. And, I'm not entirely sure if we'll know by tomorrow what the exact amount of Spark claimed by XRP holders. It may, because
Saturday might be.
Yeah, probably be Saturday, we know.
You're right.
And I don't know how quickly that information will be published by Flare. I'm sure there's people out there that will, calculate it on their own. So I'll have to see what pops up on social media or if Flare makes any specific announcements.
Yeah, it would be nice to see after this claim period, some more blogs and information come from the Flare team. I think we could expect that hopefully in the future after this claim period now. And then especially after then the launch. So maybe we'll hear some applications coming out, some other things now that the claim period, like the first domino to fall is down. And that's like, okay, checkpoint one, I guess we could look at it as. And then the real next step here, right, is the launch, Patty.
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting. I mean, we kind of always thought
I'm
that,
super excited.
yeah, that after this claim date was when they were going to launch like the whole time. So, it's bringing us into a period of where most likely based on what they've been saying, that will have a launch within the next 1.5 months. So by the end of July, sometime in that time frame. And then, as we know, also the F asset system isn't going to go live for, Hugo's projecting 8 weeks. Unfortunately, we didn't get to bring that up in the call from the other night, but hopefully he'll give some more guidance on how that governance proposal is actually going to work. Like, is it kicked off by some kind of algorithm that's like reading the network and then you vote? Or is it just going to be them hard coding in on like the 8th week? That's when the first vote for the F asset system launching will be.
Yep. And they seem like they're all content with the security audits. They don't see any future delays. They were asked that question specifically, was asked to Hugo, is there any other things that you could foresee delaying the launch out? Currently, he said no. Everything seems to be on schedule to where they want to launch in the time frame that they said. So we're not in a position where I think there were any major hiccups with the security audits. It looks like everything went good. Still waiting on the release of that information. Hopefully we'll get that soon. That might not come till right before launch. But this is super exciting. I mean, we try not to be too hypey here about how excited, myself and, Patty, you are. But obviously, as XRP holders, I mean, this is even better than those people who held Bitcoin and received the Bitcoin Cash airdrop, because that was really forking the value out of Bitcoin into Bitcoin Cash. So it was kind of just, it wasn't creating new value. It was kind of just pulling a little out of Bitcoin to create this new thing called Bitcoin Cash, and it split the value. Where this, you're going to get it at zero monetary value. But I mean, it's going to have value once they begin trading. So you're getting this new value without negatively impacting XRP. It's actually complementing it, and we're creating a whole new community here. So you have to look at yourself as this network is being built for you receiving this. This isn't a product like Uphold marketing to you or Coinbase. This is a decentralized network that you're going to be governing and that you could participate in. And that's how you have to look at Flare network. And now the dApps are a little different there, Patty, with how they'll have their own little governance, but that's where you'll hit the portal of probably KYC, AML, getting in and out of those.
Yep, definitely. And I know we saw that CFTC has come out saying, some DeFi services are probably illegal. And then also the World Economic Forum dropped their DeFi toolkit, which we kind of went over some of that yesterday. So, we'll have to see how that evolves. We're going to have entities that are going to have to, comply with money service provider laws and things like that. So I'll be curious to see how it evolves and, how much open air they let for the space to kind of innovate and grow.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. I mean, all right. Since we're talking about the regulatory thing, I'm going to bring it up right now. There's some important key differences on how Flare is designed. And I think we should know this as being Spark holders and being participants in the network. The signal providers, the way you're able to earn yield directly from the network. So in typical either proof of work, you need to provide hash power to earn reward from the Bitcoin protocol, right? That's miners really can only do that. With proof of stake, you either have to be a validator and then get get assets delegated to you. Now, with typical retail, you have to delegate your asset to a actual validator. That means they take possession of it, and then they distribute the reward out to you. That's how ETH 2.0 will work. I know Cardano's a little different. You don't actually give up possession of your ADA, but I believe you're distributed the reward. If the reward comes from the validator, they're going to need to be, I think they're going to be pulled under the regulatory guise of being money service providers, and they could go under that CFTC thing. The difference with the signal providers in Flare is that you're delegating a detachable vote, so you're not giving them any value, and they're not custodying any value. When you earn the reward, they don't distribute it to you. The distribution of the reward comes directly from the Flare Time Series Oracle into your wallet. So that allows them to not have to be money service providers, which I think is very important because it opens up this whole new ecosystem of dynamic startups and data providers that could develop. And we're seeing that, and they don't have to be money service providers. And I think having everybody being regulated money service providers centralizes everything, because now you'll have just the big entities then there controlling everything once again. So Flare's design, and as Hugo stated, they began as a research house, not as a business. And then it moved into research house, building a blockchain, and then they're going to have their own business model. So I think that's just important to note. Over the last 3 to 4 years, this started out as a big research project and how best to capture what was missing in the industry and the marketplace. And that's what they have built with Flare, is like a data provisioning network at its heart, and allowing value to go across chain and unlocking that value in Ethereum smart contracts on Flare with scalability and composability, and not sacrificing it. Like on Ethereum layer 2, they say they could scale, but they sacrifice composability. And that's one thing Flare won't. So that's some key advantages there.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about Flare is just like using the Federated Byzantine Agreement consensus for it to run, and this allows it to scale more. And kind of some of the issues with the proof of stake chains, as they try and make new capabilities to further scale the blockchain, it often can result in more
Mm-hmm.
centralization, which you got to find scalability and decentralization. So that's kind of like one of the big things. If Flare can prove that out, it has a good chance of sticking around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Spark token itself, I mean, we talked about this last night in our Patreon Zoom call. I'm just going to touch on it briefly, is that Spark is different than Ethereum token and Bitcoin and XRP. It comes with native yield at no risk, and it allows for the utilization of the asset simultaneously while being able to earn that yield. That's a special asset. I mean, that's a super asset, because you're getting yield, no risk, you're earning more of it, and you're able to deploy it and utilize it in smart contracts and different applications simultaneously without risking that token by earning the yield. So I just think that's powerful. And most of the applications on Flare are going to allow you to use your Spark and then delegate an FTSO vote. But I don't know if necessarily all of them will. That's kind of like wait and see. I believe Flare Finance and Probity, you will.
Nice. And so I've seen a couple questions in here about other ways to utilize your Spark, since it's looking like it'll be a little more difficult for, retail or individuals to
Mm-hmm.
act as agents on the network. So, I mean, technically anybody can be an agent if you want to, but that's going to require you to take control of the underlying assets and be able to honor redemptions in a really fast pace. So, you would probably need some kind of
It's not
programming.
advisable.
Yeah, you would need some kind of programming script that can automatically deliver that, because you're not going to be able to sit there and look at your account every second of the day to know when you need to honor a redemption. Then you're also going to need to have extra capital so that you can put in more Spark if your collateralization ratio starts dropping. And then also the penalties for either becoming uncollateralized, or under the collateral ratio, or not honoring redemptions are really heavy. So, it's kind of hard to see the value proposition for somebody that isn't deploying a ton of capital to, use their Spark as collateral in the F asset system. Now, what this does do is it opens up a lot more opportunities, if you're planning on doing that, to utilize your Spark in Trustline and Flare Finance. So, one of the things with Flare Finance, they're going to have like Flare Mutual and Flare Loans are also going to be offering YFIN rewards. So part of like the fair distribution of YFIN will go through those two applications. And even more interestingly, on the Flare loan side, you can earn YFIN whether you're borrowing or lending, and it follows the same rate as Flare Farm. So how that YFIN is being delivered. And then, so, you could use your Spark in those kind of applications. You could also use them in the, liquidity pools on Flare X. And then I also saw somebody asked about, what is your understanding on wrapped assets on Flare Finance? Will Y assets be able to be staked in farming pools to farm YFIN before F assets? And my answer to that is no, it will not be. They put out in the white paper the Flare Farm pools that you can earn YFIN through, and that is that's going to be YFlare and then like YFlare USD, YFin USD, Spark USD, and then the F assets with YUSD. So it won't be any wrapped assets that can earn from the Flare farm, but you can certainly trade them on the Flare X decentralized exchange and also provide liquidity with them if you choose to.
Yeah, you'll still earn fees for that, but they're keeping the fair distribution. I think it's smart. So the F assets will give you 4 times the rewards if you provide liquidity and then take that LP token and put it in Flare Farm to earn YFIT. So F asset liquidity providing will yield you the most YFIN. But with that, you have an impermanent loss thing, which we're going to talk about more. What was the original question? I kind of got off track. I forgot.
About the wrapped assets.
Oh, the wrapped assets. Yeah. That's right. Sorry. So yeah, the wrapped assets, I think they're just adding something prior to everything else coming. So it allows for something else to be there besides just Spark in the beginning. And it allows people who have ERC20s to at least play around and bring some value over, but it's kind of a step below the F assets. The F assets are always going to be like, we look as like the premium, and they're going to have certain attributes and abilities that the wrapped assets won't have. And what Patty described is just one example. The F assets also will come with, the yield that is coming out of the general rewards pool every day. That Spark will come to them. So F assets will always have like this premium to them. It's interesting to see if they'll trade it a little of a premium on Flare versus the secondary market of their native underlying asset.
Yeah, it definitely. So kind of that premium, if you think about it, it should live somewhere in between like what the creation fee is going for and then 0%. Because obviously like if the F asset price is trading at a level lower than what the creation fee like added on top to like the price of XRP would be, like that percentage increase, then you could just go to Flare X and buy it technically at a discount instead of buying XRP and then taking it through the F asset system and bringing it onto Flare network that way. So there'll be like arbitrage going on between that all the time, like people that can have some algorithm running that's just basically scalping off the top. But that'll be interesting to see how that goes and if we see any big like variances, especially like in the early days.
Yeah. And speaking of using your Spark early on, Flare Finance has said there will be a liquidity pool on the network at launch between Spark and YUSD. Now, just to get that USD, you're going to have to use your Spark to buy some. So it'll get a little complicated in the beginning, but we'll have information coming out. But I think, then we talk about the snapshot here. Has anyone asked questions about that? Because we got a great one in the Telegram this morning on that.
I haven't seen anything about the snapshot or
the YFlare
snapshot. YFlare, yeah.
No. All right. I guess let's move on to next questions.
Cool. Yeah. So another one. So LB saying, if it's not profitable to use Spark as collateral and no one does it, wouldn't that affect the whole system? So we're not saying that it's not profitable to do that. We're saying for retail holders, it may not be. If you have millions of dollars in capital to use in that system, it can be very lucrative. It's just, how much risk are you taking as a smaller retail holder? To like manage all of that, because you're going to have to be keeping up with the collateral ratio at all times, and you're also going to have to be honoring redemptions as those are coming in, and those are things that kind of need to be automated in a way. So like if you have the know-how and skill to do that, by all means. It's just definitely a more risky proposition than some of the other stuff on the Flare network. And also like where is that going to come from? Well, Hugo did say in the AMA the other day that Flare Limited is going to be signal providers and agents in the F asset system. So they have 3.75 billion Spark that will be coming to them on day one, which is about 15%. So of their like total holdings that they'll get. And I imagine that they'll be some of the ones that are bootstrapping that collateral at the beginning. And then there's probably, CeFi. Hugo brought up CeFi firms or like exchanges will also be agents on the system. Like somebody I always kind of wondered about is Delchain. Since they're like partnering up with Flare and getting involved, they're going to have a lot of capital. They're going to have a lot of like, high net worth individuals that are staking their assets through them. So, that's a way for them to give their clients yield.
Yeah, so to throw in there too, we might see like your Celsiuses, your Nexos, your Upholds play that role in between the XRP ledger and the Flare network, where they'll offer services. And this is where the regulatory side does come in, because they'll already be regulatory compliant. They'll say, hey, stake your Spark with us. And then you could just possibly stake it with them and then earn the underlying yield. So I think there will be services marketed to us, and some of the exchanges will market to their customers. And this is one of the reasons why Flare was able to get 100 exchanges. It wasn't because necessarily everyone wants to support Spark because they have XRP. There's more to this here. They're going to be able to create business models around this. And that's where their support's going to come in. So they'll offer, hey, you leave your Spark with us, we'll give you, 12% yield, or whatever they come up with, and product-wise. Then they'll deploy on the back end the collateral, and then maybe partner with somebody like a Dell chain, and there'll be some kind of partnerships and back end that you don't have to worry about as retail. But on the front end, you could just deploy and give them, and then earn the yield, and all that happens behind the scenes. So I think Celsius in the fall in that role. I mean, it's the integration of CeFi into DeFi and these public blockchains. We're not going to see just this world of, for so many years, the market was looked at as it was just the exchanges and secondary markets. It's changing rapidly, and we got to really keep up here. And this is one of those key points. This is the integration to the public blockchains. We're not going the other way around. It's going into the public blockchains.
Yeah. So I'm kind of just reading through the chat here. And Andrew's saying that it's getting deflating, that after being told we could be agents and earn yield, but that's not looking good right now as Spark holders. So, I mean, there can be CeFi firms and exchanges that allow you to stake your assets with them, and they'll pay you a fixed rate, and you can utilize that, or they'll utilize that in the F asset system. However, I imagine that normally how exchanges work, it's just like, okay, if you have this token, you can earn this fixed percentage per year. They're going to be cutting out a lot of the yield you would get by doing some of the stuff on your own, and they would probably force you to do your FTSO voting through them as well, which would cap how much you could make on that. So, I mean, I honestly am kind of
Deflating
excited.
is a big word.
Yeah,
I definitely disagree with that word. Yeah. That was a poor choice of word, but good question, but poor choice of word.
I mean, and you can be an agent. We're not saying you can't, but like we've said for a while now that operating as an agent as an individual retail holder is going to be difficult for the reasons that we've outlined already. But there's a lot of other opportunities to earn yield with your Spark. Flare Finance, for one, is going to be available. So you can utilize that and kind of come up with some different ways.
I guess the important to keep in mind here is you're already earning yield from delegating your FTSO vote. So that replaces like a typical proof of stake network where you would have to stake your token and then earn yield on it. Now you lose possession of that. You already have that coming with your Spark. You're going to be earning Spark every day from just delegating your FTSO. It's now just, I don't understand the deflating aspect here, because you can utilize your Spark in any way possible on the network, and you're always simultaneously earning daily Spark from delegating a detachable vote. So, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't understand where deflating comes from. I guess it would be if you were trying to earn XRP, though. That's where it could be. Like, we thought there was a chance that maybe you could do it in a self-custody way and earn Spark and XRP simultaneously with your Spark. But there could be a possibility, Patty, where you could use the detachable vote and still earn your Spark, and also then maybe Celsius offers an option where you could stake it with them and then detach your vote separately. So let's see what services are put out there. We don't know yet. So I don't think there's black and white terms in this community. We need to understand things are not black and white. There's a lot in between here. So to understand.
Yeah. And nice. So Andrew says he takes deflating back.
All right, good. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
it's all right.
trying to
No,
be rude, but don't be deflated.
we don't
It's a
want you
good
to get
thing.
deflated. There's still like plenty of options to utilize your Spark. Like there's going to be ways through Flare Finance that you can actually earn F assets. So one of the cool things that, I thought from the white paper was that the Flare Mine applications, like, this is something not everybody's going to want to do, but if you do run like a ASIC mining rig on Litecoin or Bitcoin or something like that, you can automatically have your like the Bitcoin or Litecoin that you mine swapped for an F asset on the Flare network. So like that's one way you could start earning them, which I think is really cool. And then there's also going to be like you know other applications like Flare loans where maybe stuff's getting paid out in F assets or like the fees on FlareX. So there's a lot of different options to earn different assets still.
Yes. All right, let's move on.
Cool. Let's see. So Brian says, how do we go from proposals to votes? I.e., for
Hmm.
F asset minting is going to be a governance vote. How does it get to the proposal process? Yeah, so that's a question I still have, Brian. I kind of hope that they have some kind of algorithm that will say, all right, the system's like stable enough to handle this coming on. The FTSO has been working well, but I'm not sure if like an individual or like, some stakeholder is going to have to make that proposal or if it's just set out to come after, 8 weeks and then there's a vote. If it doesn't pass, then however many days pass, it happens again. So we still kind of need
Mhm.
more on that, I feel like.
Yeah, so there'll be governance on the Flare network, and then there'll be governance votes and different rules for the Flare finance governance, and then with trust lines governance. So we're going to have like a main platform governance, which is Flare network, and then you'll have your own little DApp networks, which will have their own governance things going on, which could actually be more involving. Um, and it's just interesting how there's like two tiers of governance here. There'll be like the lower layer. Think of like the federal system. Like if you're in the United States, for example, like you think of like, the federal government or US government, and then you have the states. So you think of the DApps as kind of like the states. I mean, I think that's just a way to look at it that we could, it's an analogy that we could understand if you live in the United States or any real country, if anything that's like that federalist type of approach. Um, Even though they have to follow the same rules, like the states still have to follow the federal rules, where the DApps have to follow the Flare networks rules, which would be like the U.S. government. And side chains are kind of different, though. I mean, those, they kind of have their own rules, and they don't have to necessarily follow all the same rules as the main chain. So that's where the federated side chains are layer 2 are a little different than how Flare Network has it set up with the dApps. So I think that's just an important differentiator there between the two.
Yeah,
And maybe
absolutely.
that analogy helps some people
I mean,
understand.
I like it because it's like let's say you're in Flare Finance. If you have a Spark token, it's like Flare Finance is that state, but you have Spark tokens saying you're a citizen of the Flare network, so you can
Mm-hmm.
still vote on all the like federal stuff, which is like the layer 1 Flare network proposals,
Yeah.
parameter changes, and all that. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's called liquid democracy is the
yeah.
actual term by because we'll be able to delegate our votes. Still waiting on a question if we're going to be able to vote directly. But you'll be able to, either way, it's going to be fairly simple. You'll be able to delegate to somebody who wants to vote the way you want to. So
Yeah. And
either way,
then
you'll be able to cast your vote in a manner that will represent how you feel, what your vote wants to mean.
yeah. So moving on. Okay, so Adam has a question about Flare Wrap too, and he said, "Can you provide use cases for Wrap tokens? Trying to figure out the point benefit." Okay, so like, let's say you hold some assets on Ethereum, yet you don't necessarily want to get rid of them. Like you like having the price exposure to let's just say Ethereum, since you can wrap that. But you necessarily don't like paying all the gas fees that are on Ethereum or something. You could bring that over to the Flare network and then utilize it in FlareX or, like Flare loans or things like that. So it basically just giving people option and it's giving, it's going to create liquidity between assets that are on the Flare network and then these wrapped assets from these different blockchains, which is starting out with Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, and Terra. So, I mean, also it gives you a way to get exposure to some of those assets without having to, hold them on their actual native blockchain. So it's like maybe you would like exposure to Ethereum and what's going on over there. You could buy it as a wrapped asset on Flare and still be able to move it around quickly and for low like gas fees on top of Flare, but you do have that exposure to the Ethereum price. Um, so that's just kind of some of the ways you can utilize it. Okay, so this is a good question, Mickey, that I think you should take. So, can Flare Network investors use the network and become stakeholders and be agents/signal providers?
Can anyone?
He said the investors like that from that
Yes.
funding
Yeah.
round. Yeah.
Yes, they can be. And I think they will be, many of them, especially with the agents, or they'll work with, like, as a partner to those who will be the front end of the agent. I think many of these VCs might be the back end of the agent system that will help them orchestrate the brokerages and the trading behind the scenes, managing the collateral, where the CeFi platforms will just handle the UI interface, the apps, so it's user friendly. And I think that's a good design system. But yeah, I absolutely think they will be stakeholders. And then they'll build their own applications for institutional and for different industries. So Flare is the kind of network where you could have something from DeFi for retail all the way out to, so trade tech and supply chain trade finance in, like, say, the Middle East. So you could have a variety of different types of applications on one underlying network that's decentralized and public.
Nice. So
real estate tokenization, I think we'll see, like gaming metaverse. But do you have, what? I'll ask you a question out of this question. What type of institutional use cases could you see coming from those, like, VC providers, from VCs that invested in Flare Limited? Like, what kind of business models would they do besides what, like I just said? What do you see?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I'm just
But
trying
we'd
to
expand on that.
So, yeah, VCs, I don't know, as much like what kind of business models like they'll do because they're normally investing into stuff, but they could invest into future dApps that are going to be built on top of the network, and go that route, like as far as funding projects that are needed. So, like one thing that Flare is going to need is a derivatives project. You could see them get involved in like funding that, and getting that off the ground. Also, like let's say like any custodial asset holders, basically, like they're going to get involved, like you said, in the agent system and all that, but they can also be providing liquidity in Flare Finance. Like that's something, if you have a lot of capital, that you can make a lot of money off of, because you're just collecting fees constantly, and the larger the stake in the liquidity pool, the more you're going to be earning throughout that. And then also like using assets to do loans on Flare Loans or Trustline. Like Trustline definitely seems like an institutional use case, like going through there and offering loans. Yeah, but we'll have to see. There's definitely options, and I think like as far as VCs, definitely bringing new projects to the ecosystem.
Yeah. And I think more aggregating, so offering products on the front end and then doing all the aggregating on the back end that utilizes the DeFi protocols to maximize the yield. And then the customer on the front end doesn't have to worry about moving from this pool to that pool to do this. They handle all that. They get a percentage, a cut out of it, and then they aggregate all the yield. And they just give the customer this, and the customer just gives them their assets. So we could think of like digital asset management protocols, things like that. You could see like indexes of, like, say you have like, you could invest in like 5 different of the assets that are on Flare, and maybe then deploy those into the different protocols, and that one digital asset management protocol or service does that for you. So I think that's where we'll see DeFi, head in the future. And I wonder if that's where some of these VCs might be going. That's just my thoughts moving forward, because DeFi is going to rapidly expand. The next year or two, in like 2022 or 2023, you'll look back at 2021 and be like, wow, that's all DeFi was? Look at what it is now. Just look how fast the internet moved, and we're going to move at that pace. So this is the new financial system. Like, it's being born right here. It's just in its very early nascent stages.
Yep, absolutely. And, that's why it kind of seems difficult to learn all this, or like you're jumping through hoops to do stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, because, all the money isn't here yet. And, if all the money was already in DeFi, then, there wouldn't be as much opportunity as there is right now. So, like, as we see more money continue to flow into the space, then you're going to see, um, different companies start building
Mm-hmm.
out and people building out, and they're going to offer like, better services that make it easier for you. But yeah, we're just like in those early stages. And so I see Andrew had a question. He said, could you explain what arbitrage is? Yeah, it's a good question since we
So
say that a
you.
good amount. Yeah, it's basically like free profit, essentially. So it's like a risk-free trade that's gonna turn profit. So you could think back to like last November, Coinbase, the XRP price on there spiked up to 90 cents. And like on Bitstamp and Binance, it stayed around like 76 cents as the high during that. Like, I want to say it was around like the 20th, we had a big pump in November of 2020. And so you could buy XRP on Bitstamp at like 75 cents, move it to Coinbase and sell it at 90. Then your profit would be 15 cents times the amount of coins that you sold, and then less any like exchange or trading fees. So that's basically what arbitrage is. So it's like one of the easiest use cases, like when prices are out of line in different areas, is that you'll buy one place, take it over to the other, or, reverse essentially. And that's how you can earn money with arbitrage. It's kind of just like, think of them, they're just scalping little variances in the market that occur. Uh,
But
and
it's
then,
healthy.
yeah,
It
it's
it
healthy.
levels
It's
the
very
price off.
good. Yeah, it's like
Yes.
actually a really important part of like price discovery and financial systems. So, yeah, it's like, I mean, if it's there, somebody should take advantage of it. It's just like, can you move quick enough and identify those opportunities? That's why, like, if you're just manually trading, it's much harder to do as opposed to having some bot that can click through everything really quick and read the market, and digest it in, less than seconds. So, yeah. Um, and then Crypto OG. So he said new assets on Flare Finance are subject to governance votes. So, in reference to Flare Finance utilizing Twitter to determine onboarding assets, would it be safe to assume that Flare Finance currently holds all the Y Flare? So, therefore, they have a current final say on assets coming on. Yeah. So, this kind of goes
Well.
into the life cycle
Mhm.
of, like a decentralized application being built. In the development phase, it's very much centralized because you have a small group of developers and investors that are building out a project, and before it launches they have all say on what's going on. So they just kind of use these Twitter polls to add assets on. Like, I think it's a good marketing technique to get people excited. It's like, oh, I get a chance to vote like one of my favorite assets on or something like that. And then it also gets people used to voting, um, to do listings. But like once the networks launch, it'll all be turned over to a DAO, and then it will only be people that hold like YFlare and YFin voting. And then also um, what is it? The Flare Finance team is getting like less than 10% of the YFlare that's going to be minted in totality. So they won't have like that kind of say once the network goes live.
Can I throw in a point there?
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing that we have to keep in mind. So he asked, like, would you hold? Do they hold the Y flare? Is that why they're able to make this governance decision prior? So the network isn't launched yet, and Flare Finance, the application, doesn't exist. So they're in still that creator phase. So the creators of the networks, I think, have the right and the ability to make certain decisions prior to the network going live. And Flare Finance just decided, instead of doing it fully unilaterally, they kind of just wanted to get a vote from people out there in the social sphere and ecosystem and market about, well, what asset would you like? Just getting toes wet, but they didn't have to do that. The network's not live, so they didn't need the tokens or anything yet. There's no rules yet because nothing exists yet. So they're still building it. So as they're called, it's like the creators' decisions. These are unilateral, just like how Hugo and the Flare team decided to bring on Doge and XLM and Litecoin. Those were creative voice sounding. The founders of the network decide. certain things before the network's live, and then they pass it off to governance. So we're going to be going through that transition now. When the network goes live, the governance gets passed over to then the stakeholders and for Flare network, and then to the YFlare holders and YFin for Flare Finance.
And
hopefully that helped explain that
no,
a little further.
Yeah, definitely. No, those are good points. So we're almost on 45 minutes in, so we're going to take a couple more questions and wrap up for the day. I do see a couple I'm going to take right here.
Let's go in a different direction.
Well, I do want to answer one in regards to the wallets, just since, it's the last day to claim tomorrow.
Okay.
So Julie was asking, since Ledger hasn't decided on if they're going to support the Spark token for launch, should I just switch my Ethereum address to a MetaMask account? So yeah, I have a Ledger Nano. I'm personally just going to go ahead and use my Ethereum address on my Ledger Nano for the message key, and hopefully that Ledger Nano is going to allow you to like see the Spark tokens through Ledger Live. If you use an Ethereum address from your Ledger Nano and they don't allow you to see it through Ledger Live and move it directly through their platform, then what you would have to do in that case is just connect your Ledger Nano to MetaMask, which honestly, I was looking at it, it's not too difficult of a process. Like, this is something they built out for people to use with Ethereum DeFi, and then you can access your tokens through the MetaMask browser extension pretty much. So it's just kind of a decision on your part if you want to have to go through that possibly. But yeah, I'm going to stick with my Ethereum address from the Ledger Nano.
Yeah, and then import it, because we got to remember, we're now going to have Flare accounts on Flare. So we got to think a little differently than just, we keep our ledger, our assets off chain on the ledger. Those never were off chain on your Nano ledger. They exist on the blockchain like XRP. But with Flare, since it's a smart contract blockchain, your assets are going to probably be deployed all over the place. So they're not always going to be necessarily just sitting in a wallet. They'll be in smart contracts in different dApps. So when Flare Finance does their snapshot, you don't necessarily have your Spark in the wallet or on the ledger. It's going to be deployed somewhere, and it will snapshot it linked back to your account. So that's your Flare account will be in the Bifrost wallet or MetaMask, and Ledger is just holding the private key to that. If it connects with MetaMask, it's just the private key there. The MetaMask is your actual wallet. The Ledger is just holding the key, and if you use Ledger Live, that would kind of be like the wallet. So we have to start thinking here a little differently of how assets are. Your assets will be deployed in smart contracts, but they're still yours, and they'll be linked back to your Flare account. Now, that's why I think the domain name with paystring is so important, because if you could put a domain in that Flare account, it adds a level of security and authorization there, and then that links to a digital identity off chain. So that's how I think you could get KYC AML in there without people having to put their real names on the blockchain or on the dApps. They could use pseudonames sending to each other with domains that are linked to their Flare accounts. Because you have an account, you have a public key, private key, and there'll be a possible domain name on there too. So that's a lot more than just, my asset's on a ledger with a seed phrase. All right, so that's involved in this, but it's just one component. So I just want everyone to try to start understanding that this wallet is something different than what maybe we thought it was in 2018. All right. I know that's a lot to take in if you just heard that for the first time. I understand this is complicated, and we try to break it down as best we can, but we try to stick to the facts. And some things you can't just break down facts any more than that they're just facts. And you gotta it's time to learn a lot of stuff. Like Patty and I spend 8 to 10 hours a day going through this stuff, even more sometimes. So we understand it pretty well, but we understand that if you have a family and you have, a life and you work 9 to 5, it's really hard to keep up with this. I just know that we understand that it's not easy, but at the same time, it's going to take, you can only break it down so much to bare bones when it's just a lot of complicated facts. It's just a new learning experience. So there is some learning curve here, but there's also a time learning curve. Just like how you took you a long time to learn XRP and crypto. This is a whole next phase. All right, so hopefully that helps. But I just want everyone to know we get it. It's complicated.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll add on to that. Like, I kinda started following people in the space, like, early 2019. I had got invested in 2017, and I kinda, like, was following Brad Kimes on his channel, and Mickey would go on there and talk, and Mickey would say all these things, and it took me a really long time to ever figure out what he's saying. But, just, like, going and looking up terms that you don't know in Google, like, after the fact, all of those can kinda help, and it's kinda one of the things, so when I did finance in school, you learn that there's a lot of lingo that isn't like very clear to people that aren't involved with like financial activity, like what any of that means. A lot of that stuff is coming into crypto and DeFi, like that old terminology, and kind of blending with the new terminology that's more crypto specific. So like that's two layers to it. But like I would just say like if there's something you don't understand, like just Google. Google is so
Or go
helpful.
to our website
Yeah,
too,
our
the
website, yeah,
DeFiStarter.com. We have a lot of resources, and Patty's going to keep adding stuff on there. And we're making this a free resource for everybody to try to understand Flare better. Read through the blogs, read through the different posts, and try to understand the glossary of terms. It's something we're thinking about adding, right, Patty?
yes, yeah, no, I'm gonna get into like adding all the
And
DeFi
visuals too.
terms and kind of explaining that stuff out. But it's
Hmm.
just like Flare Finance is a little farther off, so I feel like it's
Hmm.
been a little, less important since Flare sooner. But
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot to. The names are confusing, the different terms, and it's going to take time. And this is why early adopters will be able to see things and be able to respond better and to profit. Financial advice, not tax advice, anything we say on the stream or any of these videos. But it's you just kind of have to learn. I mean, there's just a lot of new information out there. And I think it's going to continue for the next decade. I mean, I don't think they'll ever get to a point where anyone's an expert and then goes out of the ecosystem and comes back and still is an expert. It's like you're going to have to keep rolling changes. It's moving literally at warp speed. I mean, I could literally see it from just the documents looking up in 2019 and 2020 till now. It's like, holy moly, this stuff is moving fast. When you see policymaker toolkits coming out on DeFi from the World Economic Forum, if you would have said that to me in 2018, I would have been like, no way. But yes way now.
yep, absolutely. And I did see we got a tweet on that about World Economic Forum's agenda and stuff. I'm like, we're just simply putting that information out there because, they are kind of a signaler to the rest of the nations around
Hmm.
the world on how to look at this stuff. So, you know, we're just doing what countries would do and kind of look at those
Yeah,
things on how to make decisions, and then we can take it and break it down. And honestly, it was very informative about DeFi in general. So if you guys haven't read
it
that,
was.
you can learn a lot of different parts about it, and it has good definitions and all that stuff on like different words and phrases or terms that are used in the space. But
Yeah, things aren't so black and white. Like
yeah.
you don't want to get stuck in one ideology. And I guess let's finish off with this one, Pat. Do you think 99% of tokens, and I'm using that word specifically because the market treats crypto and DApp tokens all the same in the market cap list. Do you think 99% of those tokens that exist right now are going to disappear?
No. Now I'll say that the
I'm a
number of
hard no
yeah,
on
the
that.
number of tokens out there, like, I mean, I think it could just increase from here. Now, some of the ones available now, I'm sure will disappear. There's, no doubt in my mind about that, especially ones that are just basically like a marketing, storm to get people to buy it up real quick and see people talking about it on social media just to make a quick buck. But tokens can be used for many use cases, and they can be super simple and just make a DeFi ecosystem work a little more efficiently. They can be used to absorb volatility in a stable coin. There's just a lot of different things, and we could see companies like brick and mortar stores like Best Buy or Macy's and stuff come up with their own tokens in the future. Now they may not be on like a decentralized blockchain, but it's just options kind of to use as you see like backed is kind of bringing rewards points all into one ecosystem so they can be freely traded. So like those could be turned into tokens in the future. And like maybe if you pay a firm with their like token they have, you get like a little discount or like some cash back in doing it that way instead of like having that be through a credit card. There's just a lot of different things that can happen, and
NFTs.
yeah, NFTs exactly. So, there's an
I'll
infinite
throw it.
number of those out there.
There is. And so to play just devil's advocate on the other side, what I think people mean when we say, this is why we wanted to separate this comment of 99% of cryptos will disappear, because it's too black and white. There's a lot in between those two. Crypto protocols and like layer one blockchains, I do think there will be a consolidation, maybe like a top 100 or whatever the number is. It's going to change over the years. That will be just the infrastructure layer. But they're so easy to spin on these app tokens. You don't need ICO. You just could liquidity mine them. And I think the governance plays a role. Like they then have a use case. Their use case is governing that network. And I don't know if the market or community has fully grasped that that is a use case. Governance is a use case. You see Compound, the Aave, Unit, those are real use cases. It's governing the network. Now, Flare has added new functionalities, taxable votes and stuff. Like, what is coming in the future? Like, you can't say black and white, 99% of these things are going to go away and just compare it. Well, that's how the internet went. Did we have 99% of the websites go away and the internet?
No.
No.
Yep. More got built.
I mean, there's more websites than ever, and apps. And think of it like that. I mean, if we could change, like that was a great point you brought there, changing rewards points from like credit cards and stuff to tokens. That's where I think we'll see a massive expansion. Security tokens, tokenizations of real estate. It's going to just be, there's going to be millions of tokens in years to come. So I think it's not a very good thing to just come out. 99% of these cryptos are going to go away because it makes it too black and white. And it's not. The market really should separate what's the difference between a cryptocurrency and like a blockchain network like XRP and Bitcoin, and separate like YFin or Aave or Compound or Unit. Those are different type of tokens than XRP and Bitcoin. Those are layer one protocol tokens. And Glenn Hutchins told us values in the protocol. So you should see the value represented on that protocol layer of everything that's built on top of it. But we'll see additional tokens continuously built. Every federated sidechain could have its own governance token on the XRP ledger. And then there's still an XRP. Look at Flare Network. They're going to spin up with 7 tokens out the gate. You're going to see Spark, YFin, YFlare, Gala. I mean, Trustline with TCN token and RA. I mean, those are all new tokens. So how I really like adamantly disagree with when it's like 99% of these things are going to disappear. Because if you get that in your head that most of these things are going to disappear, you're going to miss out on so many opportunities that are right in front of you, because you're going to assume all these things are going to disappear and you're just not even going to want to look at them. But that's where you'll miss if you're thinking like that. So that's why I think it's important to keep an open mind here and not think so black and white. Sorry for the rant, but that's something important. I felt that everyone should know, understand and hear different perspectives in this. Like, I don't know everything. Patty doesn't know everything. So take everyone's perspective in the industry and content creators and everyone, and then come up with your own opinion, but try to keep an open mind. It's definitely, I think, the most important, and not just to think of things as so black and white. Like, that's how they are. That's 99%. Brad Gonghouse, I think, was wrong when he said that in 2018. They don't know everything. They make mistakes too.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point, or place to wrap up. I will leave everybody with this comment that I find quite amusing from LB. He said Martha Costin's death was on the 9th of July, so keep that date in mind.
Ooh,
Yeah,
interesting.
maybe.
Good one there, LB. I like that one.
Yeah, if you're right about if Flare Network launched on the
You'll
9th,
get
that would be pretty great. We'll have to remember to shout you out on that date if we have a live stream.
absolutely. That will be remembered. That was a really interesting comment. Let's see. That's earlier than kind of I think we expected, but
I'm thinking middle of July, so I mean it's not too much earlier, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm thinking after 4th of July at least. I mean, at least.
Yeah,
I think
definitely
we're thinking
after
in
4th of July. Yeah,
we'll be here doing live streams every day on them, so don't worry. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna be doing this right through launch, right through F assets. Like, we're just gonna continue ramping up the content more and more and more, adding to the website and everything as we go forward.
cool. Yeah. So to wrap it up, this is the DeFi Standard. I'm Patty XRP, and
I'm Mickey B. Fresh,
and
we're
we're
out.
out. See y'all.